Kingpin once was what I would consider the greatest villain Marvel had to offer. He was imposing, mysterious, powerful, and terrifying, with the best part of his character being how realistic the character felt. Kingpin became so terrifying not by having superpowers, but just by knowing how to manipulate the system, a system that mirrors our own world. The Kingpin felt untouchable, not because he was physically invincible, but because he covered himself in countless layers of political and economic armor. Not only that, but the Kingpin had something truly special: conviction. He was a man who fully believed in his cause, someone very sure of himself and his goals, someone who, in his own way, was more like an idea than a man. His name generated so much fear that even saying it out loud caused a seasoned hitman to take the easy way out. So what happened? How did this once-in-a-lifetime kind of villain be destroyed to the point of being unrecognizable? Well, that, my friends, is what I will be explaining today. Issue 1. Hawkeye. Hawkeye, which is one of the most forgettable shows Disney has produced, does a fair amount of damage to this character, with the main one being it corrupts the canon of the Netflix show by establishing this relationship with Maya. You may recall that the whole reason Kingpin buys Rabbit in a Snowstorm is because he feels lonely. In his pursuit of absolute power, he lacks comfort, the feeling of a partner. This is the entire foundation for his relationship with Vanessa. However, in establishing this father-daughter relationship with Maya, this loneliness is challenged. Kinda interesting that Kingpin feels so lonely while having an adopted daughter that he cares for. Sorta weird they didn't mention any of this to Vanessa. This plot point only worsened by the fact that at the end of Hawkeye, Maya shoots Kingpin in the head, almost like she's intentionally scarring and deforming him. Echo decided to kick Kingpin while he was down, doubling down on his relationship with Maya, further breaking the Netflix canon. Not only that, but at the end of the show, Kingpin, the criminal mastermind, is beaten, broken, and brought to tears by a group of nearly unnamed country bumpkins by unexplained grass powers. Side note, how on earth is this guy even out of jail, considering the whole
that this city rejected you, it beat you, I beat you!
But we'll probably get a good explanation in Born Again, right? But moving on. Issue number 3 and the final nail in the coffin. Daredevil Born Again, which was originally my last hope for Kingpin, actually ended up being the final nail in the coffin. The criminal mastermind, who was able to manipulate an entire section of real estate in Hell's Kitchen at one point, needs to have simple politics and campaign metrics explained to him. The Kingpin, who had this strong and powerful relationship with his wife Vanessa, has been cheated on in his absence, also known as filming Echo. And then he is forced to sit through some of the most terribly written therapy sessions that I have ever seen. And then Wilson basically just has to obey the now apparent fact that Vanessa is better at his job than he ever was. And then he goes on the exact same arc that he goes on in Daredevil Season 3, but far, far worse. Remember when Kingpin manipulated insurance companies into not paying out for Agent Nadim's sister-in-law's cancer treatment for 3 years in order to ensure Nadim would pay for it out of pocket? In order to ensure that he would be pressed for money, in turn not getting promoted, in turn being desperate, and through that desperation being in the perfect spot to be used by the Kingpin. Good times. But now, Kingpin just sorta yells, throws tantrums, talks about desks, and tells his 3 lesser Wesley lackeys to go blackmail, cause Kingpin, and that's what Kingpin does. So yeah, The character who once instilled fear just by saying his name out loud is reduced to this absolute pile of slop. Just want to say really quickly, this is no shade to Vincent D'Onofrio. He did his best with what little he had. It's just a shame we couldn't have gotten better.